Jessica Miller was the kind of woman who turned heads wherever she went. Her beauty was undeniable, with flowing chestnut hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see right through you. But it wasn't just her looks that made people stop and stare. It was the air of quiet confidence she exuded. At 25, she was a successful graphic designer, known for her creativity and attention to detail. Jessica lived by a set of principles that kept her grounded, even in the fast-paced world of New York City. Throughout her life, Jessica had always prioritized her career and personal growth over relationships. From a young age, she had made a pact with herself to focus on building a solid foundation before opening her heart to love. She turned down countless suitors over the years, each time with a gentle but firm resolve. Her friends often marveled at her self-control and determination, as she brushed aside flirtations and proposals with a polite smile. "Why 25?" her best friend Sarah once asked over coffee. "Why not now?" Jessica had shrugged, sipping her latte thoughtfully. "I just feel like I'll be ready then. I want to have my life together first, you know? Have something to offer besides just me." Now, at 25, Jessica felt the anticipation she had been waiting for all these years. Her career was flourishing, and she had a cozy apartment in Brooklyn that she adored. Everything seemed to be falling into place, just as she had planned. It was time, she thought, to open herself up to the possibilities of love. As if on cue, fate intervened when she met Ethan at an art gallery opening. He was charming, intelligent, and shared her passion for creativity. They spent the evening discussing art and life, and Jessica felt a connection she had never experienced before. Ethan was different. He respected her independence and admired her work ethic. He was everything she had been waiting for. But as the weeks turned into months, Jessica began to notice subtle signs that everything was not as perfect as it seemed. Ethan was often evasive about his past, and there were moments when he would disappear for days without explanation. Her friends raised eyebrows at his mysterious absences, but Jessica, ever the optimist, brushed aside their concerns. "He's just busy with work," she assured them. "He's got his own goals and dreams, just like me." Yet, doubts crept into her mind, and she found herself torn between the life she had meticulously planned and the unpredictable path of love. The tension between her heart and mind grew, pulling her in two different directions. Could she trust Ethan, or was she about to make the biggest mistake of her life? As her birthday approached, Jessica knew she had to make a decision. Would she continue to believe in the promise of love, or would she return to the safety of her structured life? Her heart ached with uncertainty, and for the first time, she wondered if her plan had been flawed from the start. The pressure was mounting, and Jessica felt the weight of her choices like never before. The clock was ticking, and as her friends gathered to celebrate her milestone birthday, Jessica realized she was standing at a crossroads. The world seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see which path she would choose. Jessica's resolve began to waver under Ethan's persistent pleas. His promises of marriage were intoxicating, a seductive whisper that played over and over in her mind. She wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that he was her future, the man she had waited for all these years. Yet, a part of her still clung to the principles she had held dear. "Just wait," she would say, trying to buy herself more time, to strengthen the barrier she felt crumbling around her. Ethan would look at her with those earnest eyes, his hands holding hers tightly, and tell her how much he loved her, how he couldn't imagine life without her. "Jess, you know I want to spend the rest of my life with you," he said one evening as they sat on her couch. You know how I feel about you." His words were honeyed promises that tugged at her heartstrings, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, her defenses began to erode. She found herself rationalizing, telling herself that maybe this was what love was supposed to feel like. Messy and complicated, with blurred lines and shifting boundaries. One evening, after a particularly emotional conversation, Jessica made the decision to give in to Ethan's requests. She convinced herself it was a sign of commitment, a step toward the future they both envisioned. But as soon as the decision was made, a lingering unease settled in her chest. In the following days, Jessica noticed a change in Ethan. His once endearing attentiveness became erratic, and his absences grew more frequent and unexplained. He was always quick to dismiss her concerns, reassuring her with kisses and promises that things would settle down soon. But Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The excitement she once felt about their relationship began to sour, replaced by a gnawing doubt that kept her awake at night. She tried to ignore it, burying herself in work and telling herself that everything would be fine. Then, one evening, she stumbled upon a text message on Ethan's phone, left carelessly open on the coffee table while he showered. Her heart dropped as she read the words, a flirtatious exchange with another woman that hinted at secrets and lies. Her mind raced, a cacophony of disbelief and betrayal, but she forced herself to remain calm. She needed to know the truth, to confront the reality she had been too afraid to acknowledge. Jessica decided to confront Ethan, demanding honesty and transparency. As she sat waiting for him to return from the shower, her heart pounded in her chest. What would she do if her worst fears were confirmed? How could she reconcile the life she had imagined with the one she was living? When Ethan finally emerged, she looked him in the eye and asked, "Is there something you need to tell me?" His reaction would determine everything, whether their relationship would survive this test or crumble under the weight of deception. The tension in the room was palpable, an electric charge that crackled in the silence as Jessica waited for Ethan to speak, the future hanging precariously in the balance. Ethan's words were like a sudden storm, crashing into Jessica with a force that left her breathless. She watched in stunned silence as he gathered his things, his expression a mixture of regret and resolve. "This isn't working, Jess," he said, avoiding her eyes. "I think it's best if we both move on." Jessica felt as if the floor had been pulled out from under her. The certainty she had felt about their future together crumbled into dust. Desperation clawed at her, and she reached for his arm, trying to make him understand. "Ethan, please," she pleaded, her voice shaking with emotion. "We can work through this. Just tell me what's going on and we can fix it together." But Ethan shook his head. His expression closed off and distant. "It's too late for that. I'm sorry." And with that, he turned and walked out of her apartment, leaving Jessica standing in the middle of the room, surrounded by the shattered remnants of her dreams. The silence that followed was deafening, and she sank onto the couch, tears streaming down her face. Days turned into weeks, and Jessica went through the motions of her life in a daze. Work became her refuge, a place where she could lose herself in projects and deadlines, anything to keep her mind off the emptiness she felt inside. Her friends tried to console her, offering words of comfort and encouragement, but nothing seemed to penetrate the fog of heartbreak. As the weeks passed, Jessica began to piece together the fragments of Ethan's deceit. She learned from mutual acquaintances that he had been seeing someone else, a woman he had met at work. The betrayal cut deep, and Jessica realized that the love she had fought so hard to preserve had been built on lies. Determined to reclaim her life, Jessica threw herself into her career with renewed vigor. She began taking on new challenges, pushing herself to achieve goals she had once only dreamed of. Slowly, she started to rebuild her confidence, focusing on the things she could control. One evening, as she walked through Central Park, Jessica found herself reflecting on the lessons she had learned. The pain of betrayal had been a harsh teacher, but it had also shown her the strength she possessed. She realized that she didn't need anyone else to validate her worth or define her happiness. As the sun set over the city, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange, Jessica felt a sense of peace she hadn't known in months. She had been broken, yes, but she was also healing, becoming someone new and stronger. But just as she began to feel settled, a shadow from her past appeared in the form of a letter delivered to her apartment. It was from Ethan, apologizing for his actions and expressing a desire to meet and explain everything. Jessica held the letter in her hands, her mind racing with questions. Could she trust him again? Did she even want to hear what he had to say? Her heart was torn between the urge to understand and the instinct to protect herself from further hurt. As she sat on her bed, staring at the letter, Jessica knew she faced a critical decision. Would she open the door to her past, or would she leave it closed and continue moving forward on her own? The tension hung heavy in the air, an unspoken challenge daring her to take a leap of faith, or to choose herself over the man who had broken her heart. Jessica's world collapsed further when she received her HIV diagnosis. The news hit her with a crushing weight, a relentless reminder of the betrayal that had irrevocably altered her life. Her body, once the epitome of health, now felt weak and frail, and her spirit was shattered. Overwhelmed by fear and anger, Jessica tried to reach Ethan. She dialed his number repeatedly, each call unanswered, leaving her voicemail messages filled with desperate pleas and accusations. But Ethan never responded, his silence echoing like a cruel joke. The days turned into a relentless cycle of pain and despair. Jessica tried to focus on her health, following the doctor's advice and seeking treatment. But her emotional turmoil was consuming, and she felt isolated, abandoned by the one person she had trusted with her heart. In her darkest moments, a dangerous thought began to take root in Jessica's mind. She felt a profound sense of betrayal and injustice, as if the world had conspired against her. Fueled by frustration and a desire for some form of retribution, she contemplated a drastic course of action. One night, as she sat alone in her apartment, her thoughts became more frenzied. She began to believe that if she couldn't find justice through conventional means, she might find it through her own means. The idea of sharing her disease with other men became a twisted form of retaliation, a way to express her rage and hurt. She started frequenting bars and social events, seeking out new acquaintances with an unsettling sense of purpose. Each encounter was marked by a cold detachment as she concealed her true intentions behind a mask of casual flirtation. Her interactions became increasingly reckless, driven by a dark and dangerous need for revenge. But as she ventured deeper into this perilous path, Jessica struggled with the mounting guilt and anxiety of her actions. The internal conflict between her desire for retribution and the understanding of the potential harm she was causing gnawed at her conscience. She knew that her actions could have devastating consequences, not only for the men she encountered but also for herself. One evening, while waiting for someone she had met online, Jessica caught sight of her reflection in a nearby mirror. Her gaunt appearance and the haunted look in her eyes were a stark contrast to the vibrant woman she had once been. The reality of her situation, the stark realization of what she was becoming, hit her hard. As she prepared to meet her latest acquaintance, Jessica's heart raced with a mixture of dread and resolve. She needed to decide whether to continue down this destructive path or to seek help and find a way to heal both physically and emotionally. The choice was not easy, and the tension within her was palpable, leaving her on the edge of a precipice. Jessica's journey was fraught with danger and moral ambiguity, each step carrying the weight of her anguish and the potential consequences of her actions. As she faced the night ahead, she could only hope that some form of redemption or resolution lay in her future, beyond the dark choices she now confronted. In the midst of her self-destructive spiral, Jessica's conscience began to weigh heavily upon her. The guilt of her actions and the relentless self-loathing led her to a critical juncture where she realized she needed a profound change. The more she reflected on her life and the direction she was headed, the more she recognized the deep void within her that no amount of revenge or self-punishment could fill. One evening, after a particularly harrowing encounter, Jessica found herself wandering the streets, aimlessly seeking solace. She stumbled upon a small church that had always intrigued her but which she had never entered. Drawn by an inexplicable force, she stepped inside, greeted by a warm and inviting atmosphere. The calm and serenity of the space, combined with the genuine kindness of the people there, struck a chord deep within her. As she sat quietly, listening to the sermon, she began to feel a flicker of hope amidst the turmoil. The message of redemption, forgiveness, and unconditional love resonated with her heart. For the first time in a long while, Jessica felt a sense of peace and possibility. She reached out to a pastor and shared her story, her struggles, and her desire to change. The pastor listened with empathy and offered guidance, helping Jessica navigate the path to spiritual renewal. She began attending services regularly, participating in support groups, and embracing the teachings of Christ. With each passing day, Jessica found strength in her newfound faith. The process of healing was not immediate, but it was profound. She sought medical treatment for her condition, began to make amends for her past actions, and worked towards rebuilding her life with integrity and purpose. Her journey of faith gave her the courage to face the challenges ahead and to seek forgiveness from those she had hurt, though some would never fully understand or accept her apologies. As time went on, Jessica's transformation was evident. She emerged from her dark period with a renewed sense of purpose and a heart open to genuine connections. Her experiences had taught her invaluable lessons about grace, redemption, and the importance of making amends. Moral lesson *. Jessica's story underscores the power of redemption and the transformative nature of faith. No matter how far one strays or how deep the wounds, it is possible to change direction and seek forgiveness. True healing comes from facing one's mistakes, seeking genuine change, and embracing the opportunity for a new beginning. In the end, the path to redemption is paved with honesty, humility, and a commitment to living a life of integrity and compassion.